Today, the huge missions over Europe must be carefully and elaborately planned. Our flyers can expect any trip to develop into a major air battle. At a dozen scattered airfields, the bombers are assembled and moved to the starting lines. Takeoff time. And the imposing forts and liberators thunder into the gray English dawn. They take off on split-second schedule, for war in the air is so swift that a few moments' error may mean a missed rendezvous. At the fighter fields, thunderbolts are ready. They set out to meet the bombers, followed by twin-engine Lightning. The two groups make rendezvous over the English Channel, and with the fighters patrolling the skies around the bomber formation, the Air Armada moves into enemy territory. News of the approaching air invasion is flashed through the German warning system. Coastal anti-aircraft batteries fill the skies with high explosives. Alarm sirens wail over the German fighter fields and pilots sprint to their planes. In a few minutes, deadly Focke-Wulfs and Me-109s are on their way to challenge our men in planes. Our fighters peel off to meet the enemy threat, and the battle is on.
right of the Luftwaffe. Allied planners selected our targets according to Allied Air Force priorities. That's why, merely 3 hours after the 4th Bomb Wing had paralyzed the Nazis' Messerschmitt factory at Regensburg, we in the 1st Bomb Wing were on our way to strike Schweinfurt in the face of an aroused enemy. As we began to run into flak, our gunners could feel the entire German Air Force warming up. Flying in enemy territory, we felt like goldfish in a bowl, waiting for the attack. Strict radio silence was maintained, while trained eyes searched the sky.
Luftwaffe unleashed every trick. The B-17 suffered the most savage blows since the war began.
Although Jerry knocked 20 bombers out of the sky on the road to Schweinfurt, we never broke formation. Despite the ferocity of the attack, which extended all the way to and from the target, we pressed forward. Our guns kept burning the enemy out of the sky. Approaching the bomb run began the most critical defensive period. Now we divided into smaller groups, sacrificing our mutual defensive firepower to bomb the target most efficiently. The crucial moment. The moment around which the entire mission revolved was now in the steady hands of our bombardiers. After getting 80 hits on the 2 main ball-bearing plants, we could defend ourselves again, at least to the extent of evasive action against flak and fighter attack. But the main idea now is to get home fast.
At this point that Rommel quit his African command.
For the enemy, the situation worsened. Gasoline shortages reduced air operations. Squeezed into a steadily smaller pocket, they prepared to evacuate planes and key personnel to Sicily. About 20 men could escape in a Junker 52.
High above them, the Allies watched and waited. Something big was coming. The German escape plan was put in motion. Near Tunis rose a group of more than 30 heavily armored Me-109 fighters. They were to escort a large fleet of slow-flying 52s. The hop to Sicily was a shuttle run of about 100 miles, less than an hour. 100 strong, the transport stretched in a long line on the deck, headed for their Sicilian sanctuary.
They didn't get very far. As soon as our 57th Fighter Group spotted them, Captain Jimmy Curl's squad of 13 P-40s dove on the enemy to split them up. We had been chasing Germans since July 1942, but we never had a chance like this famous afternoon. Down below, the transports droned on. If their luck held, the Germans might make a getaway. Their luck ran out. The tail-end Charlies of the long escape line took their chances on getting back to their Cape Bon airdrome. Some of them made it, the hard way. When the attack was over, we had destroyed 58 transports and 18 fighters. Lieutenants Duffy, Powers, and Cleveland each clobbered 5 transports. From then on, we sat over German airdromes and dared the Luftwaffe to come up.
They wing their way to gunnery practice, and you'll see how skillful the sky shooting is. A sleeve target is released and towed near Galveston, Texas. They're to swoop down on that. Peeling off. In disciplined maneuver, the planes of the squadron swoop down on the target as it's towed along, a mark for bursts of machine gun fire. Like long experienced veterans of the Army Air Corps, yet they're Tensaw National Guard aviators in training. They've learned the acrobatic art of air battle, how to shoot down a hostile warplane.
Early in August, General Twining called a meeting of our group commanders.
I've called you in today to discuss future air operations against Westing oil refinery. This strategical air force, during the next 3 days, will attack continuously, night and day, with maximum effort against all refineries in the area.
We got over Ploesti all right, but the enemy gave us a warm welcome. They rammed up more than 45,000 rounds of flak. That didn't stop us. During 3 days of smoky air siege, we lost 30 more planes, 23 to flak. But now we had over 100 Mustangs as escorts. The enemy jabbed and our 51 swooped into the battle. Hit hard, enemy fighter strength fell apart. Displaying courage far beyond the call of duty, our boys drove the enemy into the ground.
Thank you. Pacific is greater than ever. In the Battle of Midway, the Japanese have come to know our marksmanship. They've had more lessons in the Coral Sea, the Solomons, the Bismarck Sea. Come to know our men, too. Men like these, in the traditions of Colin Kelly and Meyer Levin. They will get to know them still better. And their ships have come to know the accuracy of our bomb sights and the force of our anger. Thanks, Mr. Tojo, for letting us see your pictures. Now take a look at some of ours. These are your ships, Mr. Tojo. And these are your subjects, but our prisoners. You remember December 7th, gentlemen of Japan.
With the big bombers homeward bound, our P-51s drop down for strafing runs, concentrating on definite objectives from here to the enemy coast. Skimming along at maximum speed, the fighters pair off and go to work cutting vital Jap lifelines, blasting away at communications, radio installations, power lines. Swooping down on enemy transportation, railroads, marshalling yards, small suburban factories. And airfields. Then on to shipping targets. Freighters, fishermen, trawlers, harbor and coastal craft. Destroyer or lugger, it's the same enemy.
Spring of the war finds us on Okinawa, doorstep of Japan. In desperation, the enemy launches mass suicide attacks, called kamikaze or divine wind, for a storm that saved Japan from an invasion fleet in times past. In all, Japan sends more than 2,500 planes out, laden with high explosives, to hurl themselves down on the decks of the fast carrier force. Most are brought down before reaching their targets. Some fulfill the goal of the divine wind. But the task force continues to operate throughout the Pacific and becomes known as the fleet that came to stay. Not one Essex-class carrier is ever sunk, and the Franklin, after bomb hits, explosions, and fires that kill and wound a third of her crew, makes history by sailing 13,000 miles home to New York, the most heavily damaged Navy ship ever to make port under her own power. With the Japanese surrender in 1945, a war ended in which the aircraft carrier had taken the place of the battleship as the spearhead of naval power. Our carriers had been required to cover great ocean areas, and their aircraft to hit targets against the opposition of powerful sea and air forces. This they did.
top altitude, one B-17 with wounded aboard was committed to a crash landing. The name of the ship was My Prayer.
The anniversary battles lost us more men and aircraft in a single day than the 8th Bomber Command had lost in our first 6 months of operations over Europe. We who carried the war 500 miles to the enemy's industrial heart knew better than anyone how expensive it was. We had lost 60 bombers and their crews.
We in the Air Force know the price of victory. Every battle takes its toll of our planes and men. Our enemies think that we will flinch at the prospect of further casualties and settle for a compromised peace. A compromised peace is the secret weapon of the enemy. Our answer is this. In the skies above these flyers who died, there will be no compromise. In enemy skies all over the world, there will be no peace. Our bombers and fighters will rise in ever-increasing numbers. The roar of our motors, the pounding of our guns, the flight of our bombs. These sounds will never cease until our enemies below are destroyed.